to it, lady. You've resigned. And take your bloody NFTs with you.
Yes, this may be a happy ending for now, but you all better brace yourselves. A harsh winter will be approaching.
This is Dylan Corey here, live at the scene at Crooked Ronin. Normally as a journalist, I've been taking notes, but my hands would get cold and as it is hard to wear it in winter gloves. So I was given an honor to report the news. Now as we all know, a blizzard reached the landfall in Sodor and is making life very difficult for both citizens and engines on the island, minus the Coldie-Fell Railway and quarries since the close during the winter season. Oh, it looks like the teleprompter is frozen. I guess I'll improvise. Future forecast is unknown, but it's presumed for its weather prolong. For now, it's highly advised to stay inside and stay warm. Make sure your heaters and fireplaces are operational, and we'll keep you posted with more updates.
It was a couple days after Boxing Day, and a blizzard has struck the island. Henry had pulled into Knapford Station with the auto train, feeling exhausted but relieved.
Henry, there you are. How are you handling this rough season?
It's a turbulent situation. Every once in a while, I'm concerned that the wind will blow up one of the cars off my auto train, and the snow just appeared to be higher this year.
Well, at least Dustin, Patricia and the Scottish twins are doing their best.
Then, Gator pulled into Knapford with a shocking surprise.
Mavis, are you alright?
Me and Gator were arranging rolling stock for next season when my fuel thickened. Poor Mavis wasn't the only diesel having trouble working in the blizzard. A majority of diesels were unfortunately not a match for the degrading temperatures. Their fuel started to thicken, and their motors started to splutter and stutter out. Barely any work was getting done, and there was confusion and delay. The Scottish twins pulled into Knapford with a units coach. From the units coach emerged the diesel drivers in a panicked state.
Sir, you gotta help
come
cut
on,
our passengers.
Something's
Wrong
wrong with
the
our
mountain quarry.
and
We were arranging
scraps of
metal
train
when
of
a
stone to be
motor
delivered
froze
at
up.
Brendam Docks.
All right. Everyone calm down. We will save our diesels. I just need to think of a way. Yes, that'll be perfect.
Later that afternoon, Philip gritted and stuttered with the passenger coaches for Gordon to take.
Oh, good. My coaches are here.
Gordon, let another engine take your express.
Sir?
I'd like you to head to the steamworks, please.
Gordon was quite puzzled, but decided to comply without any rejections.
Now, I've got to make a phone call to the works.
What do I need to go to the steamworks for? I feel shipshape.
He's here, boss.
Ah, buenos tardes, Gordon. Now, I understand you may be a tad confused on why you're not pulling the express today.
Wait, is that my snow machine? Goodness, I haven't seen it in 24 years.
It sure is. We just recently restored it, but never will be using it this year. Sorry, I know that you love your snow machine.
No, I do not. You've seen too much of those shirts on the internet.
Right. But anyways, Gordon, you're going to help the few engines clear the snow out. But I want you to promise me one thing. Please tell me you will stay until your safety valve is in place. About an hour later, Henry arrived at the steamworks carrying Sir Topham Hatt. The both of them were in for a surprise.
May I have your attention? Gordon's alternate form is now making a comeback. Please toot your whistles for the Shooting Star!
Yes, for the first time in 6 years, a shooting star returns.
What the? Gordon? What are you doing in your old Streamline show? This is no time for any great races.
Who said anything about racing? I'm going to be rescuing.
Alright, Gordon. The front of your streamlined shell should be able to plow through the snow. Your objective is to save the stranded diesels, get their jobs done, and get them to the diesel works.
Right away, sir.
Dylan Cole live again. In a shocking turn of events, for the first time since 2016, the Shooting Star makes an astonishing return, twirling through the snow and drifts like a knife through butter, saving standard diesels with frozen motors and escorting them to the Fickerstown Diesel Works. Now I should know because right now I am stopping service by pole number 3 diesel whose motor froze up from the weather and he is too being saved by the Shooting Star.
Thank you very much for your help.
Glad to be of service. Wonder how the rescue diesels are holding up.
We're all right. We haven't seen Diesel. He must still be on the mainland.
I don't know. Do I really have to rescue him?
Please, Gordon, you must. I don't believe he'll want to stay there for the season. Especially what he witnessed.
How do you mean?
I know I promised him I wouldn't share this story, but you may have a better understanding once you know what happened in early 2003.
And Bear told Gordon about Diesel's troubled history. On the mainland, Diesel was cold, miserable, and stranded at the last place he ever wanted to go. It was a passenger coach incinerating building, but this one bared a traumatizing memory.
He looks terrible. Not only because of the ice forming on some parts, but he's mumbling something. I don't know what he's saying, but he looks disturbed.
Aside of some pain peeling, all is good, Gordon. We'll see if his trace-like stage wears off. Well, what I mean is...
What he means is, we'll be keeping an eye on him, and ask him if he's alright. He must be having some kind of nightmare.
After some reassurance, Gordon proceeded home. He was going to need some sleep for another day's work of clearing snow and being a really useful engine. After the first ice storm, the engines worked as hard as they could, clearing up the snow. It was tiring work, especially for Gordon, who was keeping his streamlined suit on until spring. He was sitting at Elsbridge picking up passengers when Percy pulled in by the water tower.
Phew! I'm exhausted. I need a drink.
Fat chunks of that. Some of the water tower's caps are frozen shut. Even if they were to open, the water towers would more likely act as ice dispensers.
Bother! I've only got a quarter of a tank left.
Well, why don't you have your crew gather some snow and put it in your boiler? Then the snow will melt into water for you to make steam.
That's easy for you to say. You've got a smaller water tank and don't need much snow, while mine's bigger and requires more. Gordon, is there something wrong?
Well, I've been thinking about what Bear told me about Diesel's troubled history. Especially in 2003.
Oh, I think I remember that too.
Remember what?
Well, it was during the time when Sir Stephen Topham had decided to have Diesel as the resident here. Mind if I tell him, Gordon?
Well, if you're going to tell Toby, just try not to spread the story. Bear did say Diesel may not like his history shared. Oops, that's my whistle. I'm off to the waterworks in Great Waterton. Wish me luck.
After Gordon's departure, Percy told Toby about Diesel's troubled origins. 1952 and 1962 was a decade of where a certain class of diesel shunter was built. The British Railways 08 class.
A new playmate! Isn't this exciting?
This is highly exciting. We'll multiply like cells on a human body.
Well, I'll be 996 of you lot. Now then, side with the past behind us and look to the future. Soon, there will be all diesel shunters around British rails, and you are to go to the yards and prove them. You are all revolutionary.
Yes, revolutionary indeed.
Diesel, you are going to be on trial Sodor.
Sodor, you say? Well, Diesel, might as well keep this island up to date.
Oh, you're going to have so much fun. Good luck.
The year was 1958 when Diesel first arrived on Sodor. He was put on trial by Sir Charles Topham Hatt and ordered Duck to show him the ropes. While the other engines were impressed, Duck was having his doubts. After Diesel gloated about being revolutionary, Duck ordered him to arrange some trucks, unaware that the trucks were in old, abandoned, bad condition. The rest of the rolling stock thought of it as a great joke and sang songs about it, much to Diesel's fury. So Diesel decided to pay Duck out by framing him and making the bigger engines think he was telling whoppers about them. This resulted in Duck being sent to Edward's branch line. Eventually, Diesel's triumph would have a short run, for Sir Charles Topham Hatt eventually found out the truth and sent Diesel packing back to Doncaster.
Diesel? What happened out there?
Diesel didn't want to tell his siblings what he did, so he lied. I accidentally disarranged some trucks. Yes.
That's no fun. It's okay, though.
Say, weren't there a little more of us?
They left.
Oh yeah, about 5 of us were exported to Liberia.
It was always so sad to see the kids go.
Yeah, they grow up so fast.
For the next 3 decades, Diesel stayed on the mainland shunting rolling stock. And one of his favorites was vacating the older rolling stock with an incinerator tunnel. Rolling stock goes in on one side and pops out the other, feeling crisp and burnt. Diesel was about to fetch another passenger coach when the manager walked up and informed him that Sir Stephen Topham Hatt, the Northwestern Railway's controller at this time, needed another engine to help with the shunting at the North Knapford Harbor with Percy and Duck. They were both exhausted from all the extra work. Diesel arrived at the harbor, much to Duck's surprise, and wanted to go on strike along with Percy, but their strike would soon come to a close by Sir Stephen Topham Hatt. But even with the strike over and the extra load still coming in, Diesel was still up to his bad antics until it would be taken too far when he accidentally shunted trucks of clay into the sea. After the accident, Diesel got the boot a second time.
The rules are so simple.
And the rules and regulations just got a little more simpler. We multiple units and high-speed train sets don't need you to arrange our coaches. Now then, I'm off to find Pip. Ta-ta!
How dare you disobey me!
Hate you! Oi, Diesel! Have you heard the rumours?
People are saying that we're not needed to shunt coaches anymore. The manager says that a new type of passenger train called these multiple units are being built. By this time, we have entered the 21st century. Diesel and a few others got demoted to shunting wagons. On one of these days in 2000, he saw a couple of his brothers gloating about being movie stars on Sodor. Diesel thought about giving Sodor at least one more try, and sure enough, in 2002, after Henry's derailment, he was brought to Sodor once again to help out. But when the truck started teasing Diesel's strength compared to Henry's, that was when he decided to try to be the world's strongest engine, lining up 20 trucks and made an attempt to move them unbeknownst with the fact that one of the truck's brakes were on, resulting him to get into a derailment of trouble and was kicked out of Sodor for a 3rd time. Well, so much for 3rd time's the charm. He decided to stay in the mainland for the rest of his life. But one early morning in 2003, there will be an unveiling of a morbid truth.
Diesel! 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 Bloody heck, wake up!
Carrie, what's wrong?
We're in trouble, Diesel. This kind of monstrosity, I thought it was for just steam engines, but it's for all engines. You have to say this.
Gary took Diesel to the coach incinerating building. The sight was terrible. Diesel's siblings were being scrapped.
What have you done?
Sorry, Ozzy, But it's a new century, a new era of locomotives. Why borrow with shunter arranging when you have multiple units? It's time to die, Ozzy, and live again as something new. Into the incinerator she goes.
You can't do this to me!
Diesel's face went pale and his oil ran cold. Diesel, for your own safety, you need to leave. Now!
Who's there?
Go! And don't look back!
Diesel raced through the dark and over a bridge, that being Vickerstown Bridge. He was now back on Sodor, sitting in the Vickerstown shunting yards, sobbing quietly.
We were supposed to change the world.
By that time, I was a shunter at Vickerstown, and I saw him at the sheds. Diesel, what are you doing here? I thought you were sent home after that silly strength test at the harbour. Now you better leave, or Sir Top and Hat will see you.
I'm not going back! I refuse to go back! Not after what happened back at my old home.
Percy felt a little empathy for Diesel. He then fetched Sir Stephen Topham Hatt to sort out the situation. After hearing what Diesel went through this morning, he decided to give Diesel one final fair chance. Diesel was assigned to be a station pilot at Vickerstown, and he did so without fuss or trouble. Because of this behavior and success, Sir Stephen Topham Hatt has officially purchased Diesel to work on his railway. And even after that one trick Diesel played on Fergus, instead of sending him away to the mainland, he was sent to the scrapyard to work with his brothers, Airy and Bert. Diesel hated this punishment, but was glad to be co-working with his siblings.
We're really sorry you have to see the truth of us aging Diesels. We recently felt the same way before moving here in 1998. But it's okay, you're safe here. You can be you here.
That's very reassuring indeed. Thank you, boys.
Even if Diesel dropped the ball numerous times of trying to be good, he was still very thankful to be working on a railway he calls home.
So that's how Diesel came around to be a permanent resident to Sodor.
Yes. Toby, this may sound silly, but with the New Year's coming, do you really actually believe that Diesel would change?
I don't know, Percy. It could be a 50-50. Come on, let's head back home. The Topham Hatt's going to close the railway for a short while on the New Year's holiday.
Dylan Cole here, live in the Vickerstown retirement home. Even with this new year past, a new winter storm has finally made a landfall to the island. With me is the former controller of the Northwestern Railway, Sir Stephen Topham Hatt. Do you have any comments for our viewers?
Well, Dylan, I was quite rattled when I heard my son stating to close the railway, but was relieved to hear that it would only last a couple of days. Now, something like that will result in deep drifts, but my son and our engines have dealt with our tedious situations before since I retired. So, there's hope for Sodor yet.
And there you have it. Thanks for your words, Sir Stephen. As for everyone else, stay toasty and safe. If you do plan on our outdoor activities, please be careful out in the gusts. This is Dylan Call on BBC News.
The Diesels were in disbelief to see what was happening.
Look at my lovely diesel works! The ice is thawing through! We'll end up frozen like mammoths! Quick, to the back sheds!
But there's no room left in the back shed.
Then I declare an evacuation!
So was done. The Diesels made haste to the Sodor Ironworks and Smelter's yard.
Diesel 10? Aren't you, making a scene?
What he means is, aren't you overreacting?
Well, maybe I am, but regardless, I'm not taking any risks. Plus, it's only hailing for now, and it won't stop me.
So while some of the Diesels left for the ironworks, some stayed to get warm in the back shed. And Diesel was starting to wake up.
Huh? I'm back. How did I get here? The last things I remember was I took a train to the mainland and got lost thanks to the frozen points. It was cold and dark, and I could have sworn I saw that building.
Well, you're safe now, Diesel, and you're topped off with new fuel. We could repaint you, but there's a locomotive crisis along the Little Western and Harwick branch line, so Topham Hatt needs you there immediately. With that, Diesel poured on the power and made his way to the west of the island. However, working at the Little Western and the Harwick branch line would mean co-working with the last engine Diesel wanted to meet.
Doc.
Diesel. Now, you're probably wondering why you were brought here. Ryan is having trouble building up steam, so you have to do his good work to his way. And don't get any troublesome ideas.
Diesel was determined to make a good impression on himself for Duck. So, while Oliver was handling passenger services for Daisy, he handled Ryan's goods work while Ryan was trying to build up some steam to start his day. Despite working with no mischief, Duck was still having his doubts. Even the trucks were skeptical about Duck's denial.
It seems like this engine's always going about this great western thing. Why don't you fly south for the winter, pal?
Around noon, Diesel was taking some vans to Tidmouth Harbor for Henry's Flying Kipper. Next, he took a batch of empty plank wagons to the Tidmouth shunting yard for a future train. As Diesel placed them into the siding, he saw Henry pull into Tidmouth Station with the motor rail service.
A passenger train pulling a train with cars of flatbeds. Well, fancy that.
It's called a motor rail service. Hey, mind taking these flatbeds of cars to the sidings?
Yes, of course.
As Diesel left to arrange Henry's train, it happened. It was a windy day. The pilot workmen forgot to put the brakes on the plank wagons, and the empties started to move after a big gale blew them.
Oi! What's going on? We're moving! The wind's pushing us!
Diesel was in shock.
Hey, come back!
But it was no use.
Where's my trucks?
Whee!
The plank wagons left the shunting yard and gone out of sight. Diesel wanted to chase after them, but the rails were a bit icy and slippery, so they went with option B, alerting the signalmen.
Clear the line! There are plague wagons on the loose!
Meanwhile, the trucks were having the time of their life. They were rocketing down the Little Western. At Tidmouth Halt, Duck was just finishing up his passenger run with the slip coaches when he saw the runaway train.
Looks like we're having roast duck tonight.
He couldn't back up and hurt his coach and passengers, so he braced for the impact. Luckily, no one was hurt, but splintered wood was scattered across the line, and Duck's front buffer beam was dented out of shape. Diesel eventually caught up and saw the mess.
Duck! My goodness! Are you okay?
Oh my goodness. You did this.
What? I swear, I didn't. It was a gale.
Enough with your fibs. I never understand why so top I had would want to keep a hover engine like you.
Diesel wanted to throw insults at Duck, but his driver held him back. Diesel decided to fetch Judy and Jerome and help clear the mess. The trucks, on the other hand, were delighted and sang rude songs to Duck. Montague was full of himself, working on the Little West, doing stuff the Great Western way, claiming that it is the best. When his head's up in the clouds, without any chance of luck, will roll on and he falls off, quack goes the green duck. Diesel demanded the trucks to stop, but Duck only made the assumption that it was Diesel who came up with the song. Regardless, Diesel carried on clearing the mess and continued working on the Harwick branch for the rest of the day with Ryan, who was finally steamed up. Diesel felt miserable that night, but at least tomorrow's another day.
Even when I do what I'm supposed to do, I still don't get what I want.
Yet another brisk day on Sodor. At the Little Western, Duck left the Tidmouth Halt stations to make his way to the steamworks to have his front buffer beam fixed. Oliver was the second engine to come out.
Good morning, Diesel. Ready for another day of work?
I guess so, Oliver.
Diesel still felt sad from yesterday's accident. Oliver wanted to help.
I believe you're going to have a better day than yesterday.
But I thought you despised us. I've heard of your story of escaping the scrapyard.
I used to hate diesels. Then I got to know a little bit about Frank on the Austerary. If the steam engines and diesel engines can work well together on their little railway, I'm sure we'll work well together on our railway.
After the pep talk, Diesel and Oliver worked together on the Little Western. Once again, with no issues at all. But as the hours ticked past, the weather grew dimmer, and the temperature dropped even lower. Suddenly, there was an electrifying noise. The power was suddenly cut off. The mayor held a towns meeting to the panicked crowd.
What's happened here?
There's been a power outrage at the town square.
Alright everyone, simmer down, simmer down. Now then, the cause of this power outage was the breakdown for the power grid, most likely from the numerous snowstorms. We've already contacted the Peel Gorger Power Company, but who knows how long they'll take before they arrive to examine it and fix the grid.
Something had to be done soon, or the town square will suffer a dreadful freezing night. Then the mayor glanced over at Diesel and gained a brainwave.
Hold up a minute. Why not use locomotives to power the town? You there, Diesel. Please could you help us?
Me? Power the town?
It could work. I heard some stories of the mid-Sodor railway used a couple of engines to generate power for the sheds and the mine.
Well, it might as well be worth the shot.
Righto, I'll fetch the pair of cranes.
The mayor contacted Sir Topham Hatt about his idea, and Sir Topham Hatt was quick to agree. Judy and Jerome lifted Diesel off the tracks and onto the road.
Right then, all you have to do is slowly drive yourself over to that building where you get hooked up to power the town.
This is going to be uncomfortable.
With the turn of the key and a slow opening of the throttle, Diesel crawled along the road to the other side of the town. Diesel's flanks were cutting deep into the asphalt. His wheels wobbled, and the pain was excruciating. Diesel wanted to pick up the speed, but that would be a high risk of a wheel being broken off. So he had to keep at a crawling pace. At last, he reached the building where he had to get hooked up. A long wire was connected between a power building and Diesel, and with the rev of his motor, Diesel generated enough power for the town to regain their heating back. The townsfolk applauded Diesel for his efforts.
Good luck, Diesel. We're counting on you.
Diesel was in for a few long days and nights of work. So he worked as hard as he could and remained persistent.
I've got to keep working. The townsfolk rely on me to keep them warm.
At the steamworks, Duck had his front buffer beam fixed when he was watching the news on the box and saw what Diesel was doing.
The town's power grid malfunctioned from the numerous ice storms in the town had lost power. But luckily from the town, the diesel locomotive has been lifted off the tracks and drove it to where it needed to hook up, and is now generating as much as power as he can to keep the town warm. We currently don't know when the power will return. All we know is
don't
that the
breathe.
engine
I
is
get
in
to
the
see this
silence of
myself.
silence. This is
Both his eyes and his mouth were opened wide as he witnessed Diesel straining to keep the town folks warm and with power. Oliver pulled up beside Duck.
Hello, Duck. Diesel's doing a super job keeping the townsfolk warm and with power.
Yeah, Diesel is a nice engine. If you had known better, we wouldn't have pushed you off the rails for amusement. Shh! Spill the beans. Oh, oops.
So now the truth was out.
So Diesel was telling the truth. I think I owe him an apology.
For the next few days, the Little Western ran like clockwork, and Diesel continued to give power to the town until finally the power grid was fixed. Now Diesel will have to be loaded onto a well wagon to be sent to the diesel works. Luckily, the grooves on the asphalt acted as makeshift rails for Diesel, so it was easier and not that excruciating to reverse back to the tracks. Once he was at a close enough range, the cranes lifted him onto the well wagon.
Doc, listen, I know I'm the last engine you wish to see me, but Wait, you're not Duck.
Oh, diddly widdly woodly. Such a strange name for an engine. Wouldn't you say?
And you are?
The engine introduced himself as Royal Pioneer.
I've handled your shunting jobs while you kept the town warm. And buzz whiz whiz, that quite the performance. We better get you to patched up for work.
Royal Pioneer left the Little Western and made his way to the diesel works to drop Diesel off to be fixed. During his repairs, Diesel was rewarded with a two-tone livery, black and purple. However, a new paint job wouldn't be the only surprise in store for Diesel.
So this is what the diesel looks look like.
Doc, what are you doing here?
Well, I caught a glimpse of what you did for the town. I want to thank you for your generous, and plus, I wanted to apologize for making that assumption.
It's okay, Doc. And I know this apology is 65 years overdue, but I'm sorry too. Once I'm repaired, I'll do everything I can to make amends and regain the Steamy's trust if it takes 65 years more.
Well, maybe it would take that long. Get well soon.
So until Diesel was mended, Royal Pioneer was in charge of pilot duties at Knapford. It was eventually time for Royal Pioneer to go.
So, Royal Pioneer, what do you think of our island?
Widdly, widdly, widdly. What Wilbert said about your railway was quite true. It was a remarkable experience.
That's marvelous. Well, thank you for coming to help us, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, Sir Topham. And you all are more than welcome to visit the Peak Railway anytime you please. Cheerio!
Royal Pioneer left Knapford Station, followed by a chorus of whistles telling him goodbye. From that day on, there were no more snowstorms. The engines found their work much easier after the storm's passing. And what about Diesel? He was no longer a devious Diesel. He was now a determined Diesel to work hard, regain everyone's trust, and on top of it all, be a really useful engine. The Northwestern Railway wasn't the only railway that suffered the harsh blizzards. With the Arlesdale Railway and the Culdefell Railway closed, only the Skarloey Railway had its fair share with the brisk winter. Mainly around the Sodor Castle, there's a track that traverses over a lake, and with heavy snowfall and hail, the water rose up to the rails, eventually touching the wheels.
That lake's water just keeps getting higher and higher. It doesn't even feel like water. It's got this slush-like texture.
Goodness, that must be a sign. That slush texture would become frozen solid.
Quite so, Rusty. Bedstead and I have examined the tracks by the Sodor Castle, and there's a good chance that the lake will freeze over the line.
Come the following day, the lake did freeze over, and Sir Handel was about to find out the hard way as he took a morning passenger train with Gertrude and Millicent. He passed Glenlock and rounded a bend and was shocked to see no rails up ahead, only a large frozen sheet of ice. Sir Handel skidded over the frozen lake until he finally eased to a stop.
What the fenders? Driver, what's happened?
Jiminy Cricket! The lake has frozen over the rails! The guard left the train and ran back to Glenlock to phone for help. Mr. Percival received the message.
There's been an accident at the Sodor Castle. We must see if their handle's okay.
Hiyo, sir.
They hopped into Rusty, and the little diesel dashed off with the maintenance train. Sir Handel was still miserable, but relieved that help arrived.
I know it. I knows what happened.
It's worse than we thought. How will we ever rescue the train?
This gives me a crazy, yet unique idea. We're gonna need some sleepers and rails for it to work.
After the supplies were picked up, the workmen got to work and placed down track over the frozen lake. This is what's known as an ice railway. They had to build a curve over the frozen lake as well in order to reach Sir Handel. Once the train was re-railed and the ice railway was complete, Sir Handel cautiously puffed over the ice railway.
Tracks over a frozen lake. Wow, fancy that.
The engines were extremely lucky that the ice was thick enough for them to puff across. While some engines took great care puffing over the frozen lake, others just quickly dashed over it, whether it was from fear of falling into the lake, or they just wanted to be daredevils. A fortnight passed, and the ice railway was still a big talk on the Skarloey Railway.
I felt like an ice skater. It was rather graceful. Not the first time, though.
Alright, engines. Now, as fun as the ice railway is, we shouldn't expect it to be permanent due to the springtime thaw.
At the depot, Fred was just about to call it a day and rest when Bertram parked alongside him.
Good evening, Fred. Mind if I bunk here for the night? I have to take a train to the abandoned slate quarry. Sure, why not? Quite gracious of you, thank you.
The next day, Bertram took a loaded train up to the abandoned slate quarry, unbeknownst to him that the ice was thawing below him. Bertram arrived at the slate quarry with his train and left it with some empty wagons in tow. Fred eventually gained the effort to start his maintenance train. They are currently examining the Glenlock Loop, which wasn't too far from the castle.
You're not cold, lad? Not one bit. The weather has been slightly warming up in the recent days. At last, no more ice and snow.
The lake! The ice is gonna visit the mountain! Come on, crew!
The workmen hopped back in, and Fred dashed off, hoping that it wouldn't be too late. But as Bertram glided over the frozen lake, it happened. The tracks gave way, and Bertram snapped from the train. His empty wagons fell through the broken ice and plunged into the water.
Eegag! The ice is breaking! Help! Bertram, we're coming!
Fred surveyed the scene in horror.
Fred! Don't come any closer! You'll break the ice! What can we do? Bertram will break through if nothing's done!
With some quick thinking, workmen grabbed a chain, and they crawled over to Bertram and hooked it on between him and Fred. They were going to pull him away from the lake.
Get us the blazes out of here!
The two engines were catching their breaths.
You saved me!
Fred looked at Bertram with innocence.
I'm not a big fan of working, but I can't risk seeing my friends in trouble because of me.
Bertram smiled broadly.
You may have a lack of effort to work, but you gotten a heart for the others. That's good enough for me.
Fred was highly chuffed. Back at the Skarloey Sheds, Mr. Percival was expecting Fred. He congratulated him for his heroic actions and rewarded him with a proper day off. No doubt about it, this year had been turbulent for the engines, as well as for all of us. But despite all the challenges, having the strength to rise back up again is what's important. Because there are some things to be expecting in the future, like a certain Green Gresley's 100th birthday. But that is another story.